Hey, everybody, and welcome to this episode of Learning from the Pros. Joining me today is a good friend of mine who is the founder of Revenue. His name is Joseph Hill. Welcome, Joseph.
Thanks for having me, Silvio.
Joe, let's get started. Just quick background on yourself and what you do for all the people listening.
Yeah, so I'm a B2B marketer. I'm based out in the UK. I focus basically only on B2B and SaaS brands. I've been in marketing for about over a decade now. I'm getting old. Over a decade, and the last 5 or 6 years, I've just been all focusing on B2B and SaaS. So I took that traditional learning from B2C and all the different stuff, and I've got a degree in marketing, and I've slowly just followed the money and ended up doing marketing for SaaS companies. So that's what I do now.
That's awesome. So, Joe, you're going to be sharing your 10 tips today on making B2B ads that convert. If you guys don't follow Joe on LinkedIn, he does some pretty awesome posts, sexy ads, he calls it, or he highlights different sexy ads and he's like showcasing different ads that he's come across that he thinks is worth sharing. So, definitely worth checking that out. And yeah, I'm kind of excited to expand on all the learnings you've gotten, you know what I mean? Just like spying on ads and putting together this library and then also working with clients on this as well. So why don't you kick us off, Joe, with your first tip?
Sounds good. So I've probably created, and I'm not even underestimating this or not overestimating, I've probably created over 10,000 individual ads. Yeah, so I've made a lot of ads. And what I found is if I don't know what I'm trying to say, it's incredibly hard to say it. Now, that sounds obvious, but you'd be surprised how many people, they start writing an advert, and they start writing an advert by just looking at the screen and they're like, all right, what do I need to write? And then they're like, what do I need to say? And ultimately, you need to know what you're figuring out what you say and what you're trying to say is a completely separate task to creating an advert. You need to do that first, lay your foundation, and then make your ads. And I follow a particular framework. If you want me to, I can just share my screen. Right, Sylvia?
Yeah, go for it. That's awesome.
So I have a very particular. Wait, there we go. So I have a particular flow that I follow, and it's all centered around problems. And so basically, this guy was a genius. It's called Gene Schwartz or Eugene Schwartz. He created this book called Breakthrough Advertising, and it basically states that products solve problems, and you can't create demand. You can only channel an existing desire from somebody who wants to solve a problem towards your product. And you can raise the problem and tell them about the problem, but you can't just create it out of thin air. It's the greatest book of all time, in my opinion. Silvio, you might have one that probably beats that. Would you say anything beats Breakthrough Advertising?
It's up there. It's up there for sure. Yeah, for marketing. Yeah, I know. Nothing comes to mind. I really like Scientific Advertising by Claude Hopkins as well because it gives a lot of perspective. I would say that's probably like a good challenger. And then Positioning is also one of my favorite marketing books too. That's up there, but it's definitely like especially around the stages of awareness. It's critical.
Definitely, yeah. Well, I'm going to have a look at those books actually after this. I'm learning something too. But yeah, it's now sold for like $300, £300 like worldwide. It's just a book. It's kind of crazy. And if you want a free PDF version, I do.
It was published like in the 1900s too, right?
Yeah, and it's just like human psychology doesn't change. Like people need stoicism now more than ever, if we're completely honest with ourselves. And it's like that was written by some Greeks like long time ago. But essentially, what it gave us is this problem awareness funnel, and this is how I base all my messaging off it. You're either aware of a problem, you're unaware, then you turn into being aware of a problem, then you investigate that problem, and then you're ready to solve that problem. 4 simple stages. I don't like the tofu, bofu, mofu because it's just too vague. It's not specific. This is specifically about. It's kind of similar to another model as well, which is like the unconscious competence model, where it's like you're unconsciously incompetent to being consciously incompetent to consciously competent, and then suddenly you're a genius and you're unconsciously competent, like Silvio.
I wouldn't say that, but yeah, thank you.
But anyway, it all starts with this problem funnel. But how do you actually start with your messaging? Well, if you need to create a story around your problem first. And so this is where I fill out this document for all my different clients. So I've got like a whole document that I follow. So it starts with giving the story a name or whatever, but I have problems, solution, benefit, social proof, consequence. And that gives you pretty much the full wraparound of the story of the problem that you have, how you solve it, the benefit of solving it, the consequences if you don't solve it, and then who you've solved it for, which is social proof. So regardless of where people are in this stage, you can start filling in these holes of, okay, well, if someone's unaware, then you probably need to start talking about the symptoms of having the problem, or a report on the impact of having this problem, or content on related to solving that problem for tasks and jobs to be done. And then versus when they're ready to solve, it's kind of just like, all right, what kind of a demo do you want? So you really, number one, need to know what it is you're trying to say. And when you know the problem that you're trying to hit on, it's incredibly easy to create an advert off the back of it. For example, I don't know, off the top of my head, B2B problem is you're not driving enough pipeline, therefore your revenue figure's not there. So the advert could read, are you not driving enough pipeline? Just ask them the question, do you have this problem? Sometimes it's as simple as that.
Yeah, so much to unpack there. So you're uncovering the problem, and then based on the problem and then the stage of awareness, you're then finding those little micro stories that you can say within.
Well, I'd say that kind of, yeah. I'd say that the purpose around why I'm so focused on problem stems from this. It's around the idea that you go through these stages of solving a problem. And if you think about B2B specifically, or SaaS, usually you have to justify spend with a use case or a business case. What is a business case usually set up with? It's here's a problem, here's how we're going to solve it, here's how much it's going to cost. And as soon as you associate yourself to a commercial problem, like you are ready to justify a purchase from a business. It's pretty much as simple as that. But yeah, it's one thing is knowing that people go through different stages, which is a whole separate thing. The first step before you even graduate to different things at different stages and all that stuff is just, number one, figure out your problem. Like most businesses and most copywriters, when they go to write an advert, they don't even know the number one problem that they're trying to solve for the world. And it's like, we need to know that. And all of your messaging should come back to that. If you've got an advert talking about content, it should be about that problem. If you've got an advert with a social proof and a case study, it should be about how that customer solved that problem. If you've got a GIF of your product, it should be animating the stages to solve that problem inside of your software. So it's everything starts with the problem. I wouldn't get too bogged down with the stages of awareness for this point.
I love that. Yeah. You know, it sounds so simple, but it's the simple things that are easy to do and easy not to do and overlook that often make the biggest difference. So getting crystal clear on that problem, so then you can figure out what exactly are you going to say here and how you connect to it.
Because everyone jumps into talking about benefits and how they solve and stuff and how what their product can do. And it's like, yeah, but the only reason why you have a solution is because a problem existed before it. And the only reason why you would get a benefit is by solving the problem. So it's everything stems to the problem.
Yeah, I love that. Awesome. So I feel like we could just have a masterclass on this tip number one. Moving on to tip number two.
Tip number two is don't use big words or acronyms. So inside of my LinkedIn library, there are over, 300 ads, 394, including the last title slide. What do all these ads have in common? Well, let me go back to the top and you can just see. Keeping it short and sweet. It's just incredibly simple and it's not using any big words, acronym. Well, I guess that one actually does use an acronym, but everyone knows what a PDF is. But it's just saying it's super, super simple. Really good content that your leads won't read. There's no need to talk about ROI or CAC or because I heard a new one the other day. It was like ARPU. Have you heard of ARPU before?
Average revenue per user?
Yeah. I've never heard of ARPU. I was like, who's having a clue? I mean, it's like ARPU is just, I've never even heard of that. Obviously, I know like lifetime value of a customer.
I feel like you could have like a game with your friends, you know, like a card game, define the acronym. There's so many.
100%. I've been in marketing for 10 years and I've never heard ARPU until last week. So don't go with acronyms. Keep it super, super simple. Just say specifically what is the problem? You can see here, really good content that your leads won't read. That's the problem with the PDF. Um, and then look for another brand. Have you tried calling them? Like, simple. That's the whole point of Casper, is they give you the phone number. Have you tried calling them rather than sending them a message via pigeon, aka an email? Like, you just
Yeah.
have to be super, super simple. Don't use big words. Like,
Hmm.
if you understand the topic, which you should be showing to your users, you should be able to explain a very complex process incredibly easy. And so, one example of that, let me just flash up this advert that we made for Zip. So, automating invoice processing sounds like a complex situation, but it's actually as easy as upload your invoice, the AI extracts invoice details, no more manual data entry. You don't
Hmm.
have, like, this is literally automating accounting. It's like, that sounds like a complex thing to do, but it's just as easy as these three things. And that's ultimately what it all boils down to. You don't need to dive into super complex ways of explaining complex problems because you lose half the audience on the way.
Yeah. I think to expand on that, one of the biggest traps people make is they try to sell their product in the ad, and really the goal of the ad is to get the click. So by speaking to the problem like you're saying, you're going to pique that curiosity, and then people are going to click through and check out your landing page and learn more about what it is you have to sell here, right? And I think people listening to this might hear this and they're like, well, I have to go into the nitty gritty and the weeds and everything, because if I don't, then they're not going to get it, you know or they're going to have a ton of questions. And we can really go down this rabbit hole here too as well, where it's like, well, if now you're using a lead form versus a landing page, well, then that means you're gonna have to sell more through the ad, which means you're probably gonna have to use a better depiction of visuals, or you probably should use video because you have a lot more to say. We can kind of get, but like, I think kind of framing of what's the experience post click, and then making sure that you tee it up with the ad is super important.
Definitely, yeah. And like, it's hard to keep it simple and short and keep it short and sweet in the grand scheme of things. But it's, if you try to do everything with one advert, you're going to create an incredibly boring advert that nobody reads. Like, your advertising is ideally 20, 30, 40 different impressions that you make on a person, which all have maximum digestion. What does that mean? Well, you need it to be read by the user. And what people are not going to do is read a paragraph. So you can potentially have 30 sentences over a 3 month period, and that causes someone to buy. That's more realistic than one advert that
Mm-hmm.
creates someone to buy. And that's why you need a ton of different types of adverts. You need ones that are, like you say, just out there to get a click and introduce them. And those kind of adverts usually look a lot stupider in my way. Like, I try and be stupid with my adverts to the point where they're just undeniably in your face. Like, do you know how to get SOC 2? I have no idea. Me neither. We need an expert. SOC 2
Yeah.
thing, and you need an expert for it. That's all I'm trying to say with this. If I can get a click, I can start talking about how we do SOC 2. I'm posting these adverts next week that I've made, and the quote that I put in there is, your first impression should be like an icebreaker. Like, when you're trying to go dating, like, your first impression is like, you've got to have a pickup line, it's got to be interesting, you've got to like really nail it with your first impression. You can't be boring. Hi, my
Yeah.
name's, I'm 30 and I'm from the UK. Like, everyone's going to run away from me.
Right. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Right on. Tip number three.
Tip number three. So, tip number two was, don't use big words or use acronyms. And three was, make it quick. So they're kind of both the same thing, but the make it quick is where I come to like the three steps. And to your point, Sylvia, it's like letting people know what it is their journey is going to be in three very simple steps. And so that could be, number one, you book a call. Number two, and you're going to see an expert. And number three, they're going to walk you through the product. Obviously, that's not the most exciting thing, but it's clear what it is you're saying to do. If somebody wants to do
Hmm.
that, they can do that. You could actually, if some people actually have some really incredible demo experiences. Like, there was once a company, and they were like they're called Grey Orange, and they were a manufacturing company and was doing a few ads for them at Metadata. And their conversion was number one, like schedule us to come to your warehouse. Number two, we'll bring all of our robots. And number three, you'll see our robots doing the job of the humans in the warehouse that are there right now. And you can then go, oh, well, I can see that robot doing that job. And I can also see my human over there doing that job. How much does the human cost? Maybe 3 times as much as the machine. I'll probably go ahead and use the robots, right? But that's like, how much would you probably pay a company to come and set up a robot in order to see it do all of its demonstration? Like the fact you're getting that for free is actually like a full day's work. Like that's actually a really valuable process, but that's a lot to explain. Like, we're going to come to your warehouse, we're going to set up all the robots, they can do all these different things, and we're going to like train them up. It's like, no, number one, book us to come to your location. Number two, we'll bring the robots. Number three, you'll see them in action in your warehouse. That is just make it quick. And if you find yourself talking about the experience or the demo, or talking about the free trial experience, or you're talking about like Cognizant, one of the best hooks, 25 free leads, forget the gift card, right? That is a powerful, powerful, powerful campaign. It's like number one, sign up. Number two, put in your target information. Number three, you get 25 free leads. It's easy as that. And it's like, ideally, you can make it so short that number one is you book a call. Number two, the call happens. Number three, you live your life 10 times easier because that call's happened. Like, ideally, the third point could be like, and you live happily ever after. But keep it short. And
yeah, I have two thoughts here. One is the way my brain is, correct me if I'm wrong too, but like the way my brain is framing the tip around make it quick is really what you're after, is you're trying to reduce that perceived effort.
Yeah, 100%.
You know, as much as possible. So it's like, by showing them, hey, it's not 20 steps. It's really, you know, there might be 20 steps broken out, but it's really 3 big ones, you know, that matter. And I'm also thinking, on the other hand too, for companies that are listening to this, we're like, well, I wish it was that easy. And I can argue to that, like, that you probably could make it that easy. But on the flip side, like using the example of Cognizant with 25 free leads, it's like, well, maybe it's not your main thing, but you can create something that's simple enough that will lead into the main thing, which is like the 25 free leads, right? They get the 25 free leads, they get a taste of their contact data. They're like, I don't want just 25, I want 100, I want 1,000, I want 1,000,000, whatever, you know? And then the next logical step is that actual demo for the sales conversation.
100%. And I think if you're asking someone to do something and you can't explain it in 3 steps, like, it's not going to sound that attractive. Like, realistically, like, it's probably too complicated what you're asking them to do. These are new customers that are not paying you yet, that you're trying to get their money. Like, do the extra work on your side to create a simplified process that demonstrates your value to these people. And that's for you to do. It's not for the customer to try and understand the amount of value that you offer. It's for you to show that to the customer. So if you need to simplify your process, think about it for 20 different times. Like, and it's not something that you get right the first time. Like, if you look at, so you've got obviously the Cognizant get you 25 free leads example here. But if you sign up to Google have an offer, which is you get £400 in ad credit when you spend £400. They probably realised that they were giving away £400 and they were getting nothing back, and no one was actually putting the card details in. So maybe we need to force them to give something, and then we can give them more for free. So like, it's like you need to, but when you figure out this hook, when you figure out your 3-step process for generating new revenue, for new customers to interact with you, if you nail it, you could probably use that same hook for 20 years. It's just value for humans, you know. It's like, you should spend so much time, and this goes to the 3 A's of testing from Silvio. But the number one thing that you need to be really testing is like what you're actually offering them, like the main offer. I can't remember the 3 A's, Silvio. What were the 3 A's?
The assets, audiences, and ads.
That's it. So test your asset, and your asset is what you're offering. So in this case, it's the hook, it's the offer that you're giving. Like, you need to test different offers, see which one's the best. And when you find your 3-step obvious process that someone can do to come in and get learn about you, etc., and people start doing it more, you can probably just stick on that one for ages. These guys are going to be using this for I don't know how long.
Yeah.
How long have they been using this offer? I'd say
A long
over 10
time.
years.
Yeah, they'll switch the balances around, but yeah. The other one that comes to mind too, it's like success always leaves clues, and they come from different places. Like for example, if you take it to another industry like credit cards, American Express offers like 90,000 points when you sign up for certain cards if you spend a certain amount. So like all of these really successful companies that have scaled to a certain point, they have offers in place to reel people in.
100%. And you see it right here. First ad, American Express clicked it. Here's all the points that you get for the different cards that you go for. It's you need to come up with new customer offers. It's surprising how many B2B SaaS companies do not have a new customer offer. Like I'm having the first chats with some of my clients, which are like, okay, what can you promise them? Now, what do you mean? Like, what can you promise? Like, what can we say they're going to get? 100% guaranteed. And then if something goes wrong, you give them something to say, sorry, it didn't happen. And it's like, there's so many things that you can tie to the contract. Like you could give, like for some companies, Salesforce, for example, what's the average Salesforce contract value? We're talking hundreds of thousands of pounds. You could literally run an ad that says, if you sign up for Salesforce, we'll give you a company car. I'm not saying do it. I'm not saying it's a great idea, but I'm saying once you've locked in 100K worth of ARR, what you can offer is like a lot. So like there's a reason why Google's able to give away £400 in order for you to spend £400 because they're going to break even. It's because everyone keeps going. So it's you've got to factor those things in. And people on B2C have got this nailed because they see the immediate purchase, the immediate life cycle, whereas B2B, we're still focusing on the sales cycle, life cycle, not even the customer's life cycle. Half of the time, we don't even conquer that before we can get to the customer life cycle.
Yeah. Oh my God. Right on. I feel like we could have a podcast just on this point. Tip number 4.
Tip number 4, use visuals that make your ad stand out. So I think you saw a few of these a minute ago, but I'm going to show you which advert makes you look at it the most. So we've got this advert that pops out, standard advert, right? Image ad versus this one. Like these are just going to 100% get your eyes. So make your advert move, more people will see it. It's so true. And it's these simple, so obvious things like a moving advert gets a higher click-through rate. And the unique thing about GIF is on Facebook, on LinkedIn, if you use a video, if you clicked the ad, it would pause the video and play the video, which means that all of your clicks have to come from clicking this headline down here. But for a GIF, you can click the image and it will take you to the landing page. So there's now, instead of running a video, if you run a GIF of that animation, you've got probably a 900% increase in where you can click. So that box divided into this square of the extra area that you can drive and click with. Click-through rate, up. Eyes seeing the advert, up. And another thing is, like, you really do need to be ridiculous with visuals that make you stand out. Like memes, random Google results, screenshots of conversations. Like this looks like an actual conversation that happened. We've got the time in there. We've got the little stuff at the top. There's 12 unread messages in this fake person's life that does not exist because we made up date. Like this entire conversation, you could probably just tag a coworker, come up with some fake names, change your profile picture, actually have a fake conversation, then screenshot it. We went to the length of just artificially creating the entire thing. But fake conversations, GIFs, like it's just stupid stuff, but they stand out. They're funky, they're weird, they get the first click, and then after you've had a first click, everybody knows that retargeting click-through rates are through the roof, so getting that second click comes at a better rate, and you can start massaging people down the problem funnel.
I love it. I love it. Tip number 5.
Number 5. So, tip number 5 is try to make your ad not look like an advert. So again, a lot of these stuff, it's separate tips, but they do cross over. So use a crazy visual, but then make your ad not look like an ad. Kind of the same thing. Obviously, The animations, these are adverts that actually look like adverts but stand out. So this is more the previous tip, whereas the next tip is to make ads that don't even look like ads in the first place. And so we've got a couple of examples from Northspire here. So we've got the Star Wars meme. I'm managing the entire real estate project in Excel. You're kidding, right? No, I love chaos. She's not happy about that. You've got flex tape, budget, overspend, Northspire. Project overspend is being calmed down by Northspire. And then another one, Dog Baby, absolute classic.
Do you have any tips for people that are like around the production of meme ads or like production of GIFs, things that you found helpful?
So I'd say it's different for GIFs than memes. So memes, you really just have to load up your problem. So I'll have like my document open on my stories. I'm like, all right, what problem am I talking about? All right, the problem is Excel spreadsheets break easily. So that's number one problem. Now I'll just open up a meme library and I'm just scrolling, I'm scrolling until something shouts at me and I can see, or I'll look at other competitor adverts. If you do want some competitor adverts, you only have to go and head over to Joe's Sexy Ad Library. We've got a ton of memes in here.
Plug it, Joe. Plug it.
Yeah. I get absolutely nothing from this as well. People just basically come in. All the competitors just take examples. Anyway, so no, we've got Northspire in here as well. We've got some other stuff from Casper. This one's great. How can you kind of, obviously this is flex tape. I just made that work for Northspire. So the traditional memes, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. The same memes are being used over and over and over again. I will say though, when it comes to creating adverts that don't look like adverts, there's some more crazy examples coming down the pipeline. It used to be that doing something as simple as like a fake conversation, but you can still slap your logo on it and make it branded. But now you can't really do that to get the full value of the placement because that still looks like an advert. So you actually, the same with this one, with Cognizant, it's got the fake message, like a real message, but it still obviously looks like an advert. So you kind of have to go an extra step and just make something. I guess they've got the logo on this as well. I would heavily recommend removing the logo from your images, by the way, because the logo is already
it's a wasted, but yeah. Totally.
Yeah, but I will say this is just like fake things. So think about, what do you do every day? I go on Spotify, then I watch Netflix. I haven't seen many fake mock-ups of like a fake documentary for Netflix with everything else grayed out, and it's like the problem. I don't know.
Yeah.
Excel kills me. I don't know. Like, awful stuff.
Yeah.
Spy.
The horror stories of Excel. Exactly, like.
Yeah.
Or yeah.
And then
I love that.
You could have that. What else do? I go on YouTube all the time, fake YouTube videos. I play chess. You could easily probably somehow have like a chess game and one person's winning the chess game, one person's losing it, and the person who's losing it is you. And then it's like overspend is beating you at chess. I don't know. Like,
I love it.
I'm literally just thinking, what do I do every day? What do I look at? And it's all you got to do is take things. It's like retargeting. If you do a retargeting ad and you've seen the logo before, you're going to click it. If you show a picture of like a chess game, and I have seen loads of chess games before, I'm drawn to it almost like retargeting. So you're taking the concepts people have seen before, hacking your click-through rate, almost kind of like retargeting and how that works.
Good. That's some gold. Tip 6.
Steal from the greats. All right, so I have a secret library that no one actually knows about, Silvio. No one knows about it yet. It is my print library. Now, I've gone through, and I've also got ad formula. You'll see I've got this little bookmark here. So I've got a classic print ads of just loads of B2C ads that I look at for inspiration. You'd be surprised how many people have done stuff in B2C. You don't even need to reinvent the wheel. You just steal what they've done. Out of office emails to show that your life is now handled. Like, oh, sorry, out of office, reconciliation's all been handled by this robot over here. I'm going to take 2 weeks off. Where there's a will, there's Land Rover. Like, great, that's awesome ad copy. Like, where there's and you can insert your brand. Spacebar is a Kit Kat. I'm thinking, what else could I do with a keyboard? I can maybe highlight overspend will get you fired in fake word, like just rearrange the keys kind of thing. And what I love to do as well is essentially look through these ads and try and turn them into a formula. So, for example, where there's a insert, there's brand.
Mm-hmm.
Turn
No,
that
you just created a copy formula. Yeah.
exactly. So, like, if I look at my latest one, our software is like a friendly security guard for your budget. Everyone likes them and they keep you protected. And that was just kind of like a weird, colloquial, chatty way. We're not number one. So this is an interesting one. So ages ago, someone ran an advert and it was like, we're not number one in this space. But that's because they started way earlier than us and they're just like evil and corrupt. We're number two. We try harder. We want that number one spot. But they're going to be lazy because they're on top and we're not. And it was like, it's just a weird thing. And then you've got, are you using Gmail for business? Well, then you should be using brand too. So that's just qualifying your audience. Like, are you doing this behavior which identifies you as my customer? If you answered yes, read this ad. So yeah, to make it stand out of relevance.
I
But
love
yeah,
this.
number 6 is steal from the unbelievable copywriters that figured everything out 50 years ago because all they had to work with was a billboard. They were supposed to make you buy stuff with just a billboard. And these are all like new style stuff, but I've also got like all the old ones from Guinness. And I've also got tons in here with McDonald's visuals, like using chips as Wi-Fi. It's like I wonder how many brands could repurpose something into a Wi-Fi signal for, I don't know, whatever purpose. Just yeah,
I
your
I
idea.
hope if anyone's gotten anything from this interview so far, that it's the importance of when you're going to write copy, you don't start from a blank canvas, that you have inspiration to start from, like just it's like the old saying from Pablo Picasso, good artists copy, great artists steal,
Yeah,
and it's just stealing this inspiration and then making it in your own way that shapes your product, your audience, your problem, and presenting it. All right, Joe, we're gonna have to speed. Tip 7.
Tip 7, use powerful hooks. So you need to get somebody to act. Therefore, there is this visual. 2 seconds. Um, do, 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 do. So there's plenty of hooks that you can choose from. You can do meeting incentives, you can do company resource, or you can do knowledge. Now, obviously, the best place to be as far as high conversion rates is using something to do with your unique company resource and your knowledge. Best company to do this I've seen so far lately is Cognizant. 25 free leads costs them 0. The user feels like they've got free leads, they can test the product. There we go. Another one, American Express, dangling those points. And then we've obviously got Google as well, who promise you £400 if you spend £400. So have an offer, have a reason why they should actually act, or else they probably
Yeah.
won't.
Get free courses taught by the world's best practitioners to learn paid ads. Yeah, got it. All right, tip number 8.
8, take up as much of the screen as possible. The reason why I believe this advert is going to be one of the top performers, well, these two, is because they're actually just taking up more of the mobile screen. These are squares. Anyone doing rectangles, unless they've got a serious reason why, you should not have an advert like that. Take up more space like this, even go further like this. You can do it on most channels, so take up the space.
Yeah, and just for those listening, the rectangle is 1200 by 628. Unless you have data to support it, same in my experience. 1200 by 1200 is dramatically better. And then LinkedIn also has a mobile size. I think it's 9 by 16, but we can link in the article the ad specs. We put together this article. It's like top 50 ad specs across 9 ad platforms, and you guys could just like check it out. But LinkedIn is unique in the way that it allows us. It's like single image ad, but it's so many variations of the one ad dimension that it's almost like different image campaigns. You know what I mean? Just using
Yeah.
different formats. But yeah, that's totally a great tip, and this applies to everything. Google Ads. Make sure you're using ad extensions. So now your ad is expanded. It takes up more space on the search engine results page, and if it's larger, the chances of it getting clicked are just dramatically higher. So yeah, it's a great, easily forgotten tip for sure.
Yeah, and it's also one that gets its own special slide in my deck, which is use extensions because you can take up 50% more space.
Yeah, 100%. Amen. And also for Google Ads specifically, it's also a factor of ad rank. So there's only so much to gain, and for people who are listening, they're like, oh, well, tracking, you can set up tracking templates at the site link extension level, so you can be able to pass dynamic parameters. Tip number 9.
Number 9, speak like a human. So I literally avoid speaking like a company when I write my ads. And the idea is, if your advert's boring, why the hell is somebody going to go ahead and read it? So I am trying to be as silly and as friendly as possible, because at the end of the day, no one wants to talk to the boring people in the world. Why on earth would they want to talk to the boring companies as well? And I don't mean that harsh. It's just like, at the end of the day, you've got to bring value. We live in a meritocracy. You've got to do something that entertains or provides value. And if you're not doing that, you're not going to stand out as much as everybody else who's actually doing that. Now, check out this ad copy here. It's not super professional, but it might actually get read on social media. We make SOC 2 easier than riding a bike. Unless you don't ride a bike, then we make it easier than whatever you find easy. The only thing I'm trying to say in these 2 sentences is we make your life easier with SOC 2. But here I've said it in a chatty little way, which has got a bit of character, and it's probably going to maybe hopefully get a like, I don't know, or maybe I'm just cringy. You tell me. And then we've got another one here. We like our customers because they pay us. They like us because we get them out of Excel, automate admin, and reduce errors caused by bad processes. Now, that is just way too much honesty. Radical candor. We only like our customers because they pay us. Obviously, that's true, but that's like something you'd say to a friend, but I like my customers. And everyone goes, hey, good one, Joe. So it's just trying to get that standard human social involvement into your ad copy so it's not lifeless.
How do you handle this with companies that are, what's the word, maybe a bit more archaic in their thinking around tone and message?
Traditional
Is the better word. Yeah, traditional.
At the end of the day, you can't force a client to change how they speak. What I can tell you is memes have twice the click-through rate on average as a normal single image ad. So do you want more clicks? Do you want more results? Or do you want to focus on the fact that you want to be all professional and stuff? Because ultimately, the informality of the next generation knows no bounds. And just go hang around with a couple of 20-year-olds and what they do and how they live life. And like, they're all just vaping indoors. They don't care for these traditional rules, smoking outside. So it's, like the future is different. And if you don't adjust, like ideally back in the day, everyone was so worried about charlatans. They were so worried that they wanted somebody in a suit. They wanted somebody who's got all that social proof. Now, everyone's got that. Like, everyone could be a charlatan. Everyone's got to that level. So it's like, what are now the signals that make someone stand out more than everybody else? It's admiration, word of mouth, and trust. And you get that through being a human, so another human trusts you. You don't get it like acting like all the super huge conglomerates that nobody trusts anymore. You want to find and be that person you can trust, to be personable. And just look at this sway of influencer marketing. All the influencers have all the power now, and the brands are begging for that power back. That's because they're individuals with individual characteristics. You can put your faith in one, not all. So, we've talked about that for a while, but...
Mic drop.
Sometimes you can't do it, though. So you have to focus on slightly more conventional things, like a branded version of a search engine or moving adverts. Like, there's ways to get clicks. You don't always have to bait yourself out and do weird little memes.
Yeah, 100%. All right, Joe, 10th and final tip.
10th and final tip is, if you do all of what I've said, you can still fail. All right. Now, stupid thing to say if I'm trying to sell something, but this is what I am. I'm just honest, and it's in my bones. Now, let me find what I want to show you. Okay. So let's say you write down all your problems. You make all your adverts about that problem. You have a solution, benefit, social proof. You found people you've solved the problem for. You've done all that work. You've got a full-on regimented story, and then you're stuck on it. And then you have success. Let's say you have success for 5 years. And then you stick to that story. The world changes. That's no longer a problem anymore. No one needs to really solve that problem. Something else that's cheaper has solved the problem. The problem's gone away. Get ready for bankruptcy and look at the graveyard for all the dead companies out there that have managed to stick to their story rather than update it. And what is the only way you can double check that the problems you have are actually the problems that exist, that you can actually sell to and make money from? Ask your potential customers. Ideally, your different personas, you should have three or four. Like, for example, a marketer, a salesperson, a legal person. They should ideally all have their individual problem. You only have to have one, maybe two per persona. I try to stick with one. And then go and chat to those people and say, is this actually a problem? I'm like, yeah, does this actually solve it? Yeah. What's the benefit? Is it actually this? Yeah. At that point, you verified that what you're saying isn't complete and utter poop. That is ideal because you need to sell to problems that actually exist, not to ones
Yeah.
you think exist. And what happens a lot of the time as a marketer, we have to kind of create the problem. The product's here, you get given it, go make an advert. Where's the problems? I don't know. The founder has left the company and I can't find him anywhere. Like you kind of need to reinvent it sometimes. You have to find the problem to sell to. That's what a lot of companies do. It's like, is that horizontal? And it's like a market. You can expand into new markets with the same problem.
Oh, yep,
It's
yep.
like horizontal,
Horizontal scale. Yeah.
yeah, scales. What I'm looking for. So you can scale in that direction by finding a problem that you could solve the same problem for another market or solve another problem for your audience. And it's like you need to figure out whatever you're doing
Hmm.
exists and verify it. And honestly, I get to this point, I feel like I might start offering customer interviews as a service because so many of my customers need it. They'd happily pay a couple of $1,000s for it, but I have no intention of doing that right now. So if anybody else wants to come
It's
along,
it's so true. I mean, one way you can get closer to it without having to actually jump on a call is if you're listening to this and you're in B2B, you probably have G2 as a primary area for testimonials. Reach out to your G2 rep, ask them for an export of all your testimonials, and then take those testimonials, upload them in ChatGPT. ChatGPT will do a sentiment analysis and basically see what are the top 10 recurring pain points that are said, what are the top 10 recurring benefits. And then from there, you can take it a step further and you say, ChatGPT, give me 10 ad angles for each of the top pain points. And now you've got, so that's a way, like I talked about it in my Mutiny presentation. So like a way for you to do that customer research easier before having to actually jump on the call. Now, granted, the best thing you can ever do is actually get on a call with someone, but this is like a good stepping stone for people listening, especially if you have a ton of testimonials. You can you can get that reality check and make sure that you're actually solving the right problems.
no,
Yeah, I
I
think
love
that's
that.
a huge point.
Yeah, well, you have qualitative and quantitative. Obviously, qualitative is a customer interview, but outside of doing a survey and going and asking people on a mass if they experience the problems, the best data source that's just sat right there is G2 reviews, to your point. So that's a genius move.
Yeah, yeah. I always think like the at the end of the day, your customer is the marketing genius. And like all you're really trying to do is like you're just trying to like go up behind them and be like just, like kind of picking the scraps of all the brilliance that they have to offer you. It's just they don't know how to communicate it at times, and it's your job to understand what's the message they're trying to convey.
There's a reason why on most sales cycles there is a stage which is identify pain.
Yeah, 1,000%. Joe, this has been an absolute masterclass. Just to quickly recap for everyone listening here at home, tip number one is if you have to figure out what you want to say, and you do that by getting really clear on the problem. Tip number two was do not use big words or acronyms. Uh, Shout out to the product people here, RPU, I can't even say it now, ARPU, average revenue per user. So don't use big words or acronyms. Tip number three is make it quick. Ultimately, what we're trying to do is we want to reduce that perceived effort and get to the point as much as possible. And it's your job, like Joe said, as the business to figure out that process and make it as simple as possible. Tip number four is to use visuals that make your ad stand out. And Joe talked about the power of using memes and also using the power of just animating your existing image ads that are already performing well and turning them into GIFs. Tip number five was to try to make your ad stand out by not looking like an ad. A different way of doing it, but just thinking about what are the things that you're doing every day, and then seeing how can you take those things that you're doing every day and then showcasing it to your prospects because it's likely they're doing similar things as well. Tip number six was all around stealing from the greats. Remember, look through ads and really dissect it and try to understand not just from a creative perspective of like how you can get inspired, but even taking it a step further, like Joe showed around the copy formulas, like why did this hook stand out to me? And then see if there's a way you can take that and actually templatize into a formula that you can reuse and repurpose for your segment and offer. Tip number 7 was to use powerful hooks, which kind of ties into tip 6. And then tip number 8 was to take as much of the screen as possible. So remember, like depending on the placement, try to maximize the exposure you have. Tip number 9 is to speak like a human. And finally, tip number 10 is you can do everything you tried and still ultimately fail. So make sure you're always in tune with what the customer wants and their true problem. Joe, thank you so much for being on. This was an absolute masterclass. If people want to connect with you, where can they find you?
LinkedIn. I got rid of all the other platforms because I'm trying to maintain my social, no, I guess my mental health. One platform only for me. So yeah,
Hey, that's honestly all you need.
exactly. LinkedIn, posting weekly ad breakdowns, ads I've made, ads I've found that I take inspiration from, and then you've seen a few diagrams here. I don't go a day without making a diagram. I kind of have diagram OCD, so I have a lot of diagrams trying to simplify complex topics over there as well.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Joe. And thank you for watching. We'll see you in the next one.